Is it good enough for you?
This is DJ Shadow on The Rinse with James Hyman, XFM.
Want to read another thing? You know, we're really doing the kind of This Is Your Life treatment on Shadow here. And there's a great book. There's a series of these books called 33 and a Third, and they go through classic albums. And of course, Introducing is a classic. It's right up there. It gets right up there on lots of Q's best albums, Mojo's best, and quite rightly so. You're not going to be hard on yourself on that one.
No, it's just sort of hard to know what to say.
Okay. So you have to say anything. Right. Well, anyway, this one, Elliot Wilder wrote about you Introducing. And a good quote here that I love. It talks about some of the titles in your tracks, Building Steam with a Grain of Salt, you know, Mutual Slump, the real, the sort of, the angst in the titles. I like this here. When I sit down to make music, there's a degree of self-doubt and self-loathing. I don't want to make it sound like it's something I'm able to work out in music. When I make a good beat, there are two things that go through my mind. The first is this beat is hot. I get super excited, I get super pumped up, and I think, this is it. At the same time, I have a feeling nobody's going to like it, it's going to fail, it's going to be laughed at. I relate to that, and that's hardcore. Do you still get a lot of that feeling when you make your music? That's awesome, though. That's the real bipolar kind of vibe to it.
It's just like when I put a show together.
Yeah.
I mean, from the time I finished this album, The Outsider, until the wireless show I did at Hyde Park in the middle of June, there was about 2 weeks, and I had to get that show together. And then, it's not like that's a pretty high stakes gig to start your tour.
Definitely.
Like a festival date.
I remember the stress. Yeah, I remember it.
So, I had 2 weeks to put the show together, and it's the same sort of thing. It's like, well, I think this is okay, but I really, you have to imagine the worst case scenario, I feel like. And the worst case scenario is that you just get booed off stage.
Absolutely,
so,
you never know, really, until the things happen. And you know what? An example I read today, again, there's this magazine, Promo Magazine, they were doing a whole 25 years of MTV, going through the best videos ever. And again, it's so, in retrospect, I think it's a nice, almost innocent, naive thing never to know. They were talking about the Massive Attack Unfinished Sympathy video. The guy who did, I can't remember his name now, Bailey Walsh, is it Bailey Walsh?
It could well have been.
He just said, what a nightmare. He literally couldn't get it, obviously the one-take video, and nightmare, couldn't get it right, and this, we didn't have light, and I had to do this, and she fell out of shot on this. He was like in tears. He went to the telecine to process the film. He said, this is shit. And look, it's the classic video, pretty much top, it's a good thing, I guess, but I'm just intrigued by that quote of your...
That's frequently, that whole process that you talked about is frequently the case. Enough, which is a track I'm really, really happy with on the album.
Which we're going to play.
It just sort of didn't gel to me until suddenly it gelled, and that happens a lot in the mix where you're sort of like, and it's just it's a matter of small moves and just sort of unlocking the right combination. And when you're able to do it, it's like nothing else. But when you can't do it, it's like the most crushing failure. It's just this, and you never know how it's going to be until the last second.
I'm getting too deep with you. See, this is what he does to me. But again, there's a literary reference as well. Camus' book, L'exil et le Royaume. There's a story called L'Étoile about this creative guy. He loses his whole talent and he gets it back. It's deep, L'Étoile. I'm sure there's a spoken word recording of it by Churchill that would be... Anyway, stop rambling, James. Right, side projects as well I wanted to chat to you about as well. Kind of, how's any of that kind of stuff happening, the quantum stuff, Black Alicious and all the kind of offshoot stuff that you've worked on, Lyrics Born? What's happening with all that?
Lyrics Born is working on his next album, and he's about to tour with Cut Chemist in the US and probably other places. Black Alicious, I'm not sure. I'm sure they're recording.
Okay. But are you kind of involved with them at all in the kind of production or
I
work or anything?
have taken a step back from my quantum duties because I basically met with everybody at the beginning of this year and just said, look, I have 2 girls I need to raise. I've got an album I need to sort of raise, essentially. A tour to do all year. Let me take a year and not sort of muddy the waters by being hard to get a hold of and, not being able to fulfill my duties. But it's family. Those guys are... Yeah. It doesn't matter if we don't see each other for 6 months. When we see each other, it's just like old times.
Okay, cool. We're going to play another album off the track. This came out of the ashes of the Zat La Rocca project.
Right, yeah.
We're going to play The Artifact. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Still here with DJ Shadow and another part of your body of work, which is an awesome moment. People, if you've never seen this, go and get the Scratch DVD. When you're talking about the digging.
Yeah.
Do you still dig a lot?
Yes, but it's one of those things that, it's a subject that people want to talk about a lot, but it's a weird thing because I find that I don't really click with a lot of other people who quote unquote dig and that I meet out. To me it's a solitary pursuit. It's not something that I'm not exactly thrilled when I'm in a store and I bump into somebody who wants to talk to me about what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
And that's not to sound rude. It's just that I go to places to find vinyl very much as a way to it's like therapy. It's just a way for me to be alone for a little while.
It's a temporary autonomous zone.
Very well put, actually.
Thank you.
I was in Korea.
Bill Laswell, I think Bill Laswell's on that whole the whole Axiom label.
I see.
Yeah, I always remember that from him. He's trancing out. It's whatever.
Yeah, it's just, and that's not to say I don't like to also go with friends, but I like to choose the people that I do it with quite carefully, and I tend to like to do it with people that were doing it before it was suddenly fashionable in the late 90s. I don't do it for bragging rights. I don't do it so that I can say, "Oh, I've just
found
a
new kind of MTV Cribs, sort of celebrity." You take a little celebrity with you and you take them, digging. No, I'm only being silly. I'm being silly. You don't want to spoil the
Although
illusion.
Latif went with me, we were in Seoul, Korea, and I think he understands that. Well, hey, this is a way to get out of the hotel, and you see the city, you meet people. It's a way to sort of sample a little bit of where you are, whether it's Brussels, Belgium, or whether it's Korea
Absolutely.
or Hong Kong. I went out with some people. I was a little bit dubious. I bumped into
You mentioned Sonar before. I mean, there was a big thing there. I just read it in Record Collector today. Big record thing during
cool.
Sonar.
Wow, I didn't realize.
You have to wait till next year when you perform again. Okay, filling your time. And do you think you're like a workaholic? Do you think you switch off? Because obviously music's your life.
Yeah, well, the thing is that, it's, I'm happy to give it 100 hours a week if that's what it takes.
Awesome.
But at the same time, I don't ever want to sort of suddenly find that I'm 75 years old and I'm looking back going, shit, I wasted half my life doing this or that. It's like I love music to the point where I don't want to go back to the well too many times, too quickly. I need time to regenerate, and I need time to feel like I'm also living a life outside of music. Thus, what I've mentioned before, it's like
getting the balance.
Yeah, having a healthy balance, I feel like will ensure that music is something I can always access in times of need and in times of creative impulses, rather than like, damn, I gotta make another song, you know what I mean? Like I never want to have that attitude.
Good.
I used to actually have this illusion that I would never have to rely on music as a career, that I would actually have another career and do music as a hobby.
I'm trying to do that at the moment.
Right.
In a kind of way.
Good on you, as they say.
I love it, but there are other things to be done, fish to fry as well.
Yeah, and
Push
it's
yourself.
hard because I hear myself talk like this and it sounds like I'm not giving, because music really is my life.
Yeah.
It's just that it can't be.
Jesus, if anyone watches that Scratch scene, I'm telling you, they know it's your life by that scene.
It's really weird.
You
I remember
camped out, and didn't you like a sleeping bag or something crazy?
No, not quite like that.
Okay.
I mean,
maybe I'm just, my imagination's running wild.
Well, actually, the closest I ever got to that was I forgot my backpack in the basement of a store in St. Louis in '98, and we had to sort of spend the night so that I could retrieve the backpack in the morning. And anyway, long story.
Okay. We're going to now, for a little different, play some people who've actually taken on your work, who've done little remixes, because these are nifty. They get requested a lot actually on XFM. This one's Soul Wax mix of 6 Days.
Oh yeah.
Cheeky. And what's the other one here? Cut Chemist's mix of the Numbers song.
Classic.
Yep.